Hello, everyone, and welcome to our eBECS Business Intelligence webinar today. Today, Jeremy Kingery is going to take us through some of the options around BI, including Power BI and the more traditional BI stack. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Jeremy. So Jeremy Kingery is our BI practice lead here at eBECS in the US. Jeremy comes from a long pedigree of BI. He's got 15 plus years experience in the world. He came from an Oracle and MicroStrategy realm and has since moved to the Microsoft stack. And like I said, today he's going to take us through kind of demystifying all the choices that you have today around business intelligence and clarify the roadmap, especially for the AX user out there. Now, just to keep things a little bit quieter, we're going to keep all the attendees on mute. If you do have a question, please use the chat feature, the question feature, and we'll make sure that we get to all of those questions at the end or throughout, or by the time, we'll follow up with you if we can't handle it today. All right, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Jeremy. Again, please use the chat or the question feature, and we'd love to get back to you on all of your questions.
Good morning, everybody. Charlotte, can you mute? Okay. Good morning. As Charlotte introduced me earlier, my name is Jeremy Kingery. I am the North American Business Intelligence Practice Lead for eBECS. And today we're going to talk a little bit about business intelligence. We're going to discuss Power BI, traditional BI, how the two work together, when they should or when they shouldn't, and how you can actually make Power BI work for your Dynamics AX installation. So with that said, let me tell you a little bit about eBECS real quick. We are a Microsoft exclusive consultancy. We're a Microsoft partner, and we are gold certified in business intelligence, ERP, and CRM systems. We are in the Microsoft Inner Circle and President's Club, which indicates we are one of the top 10 Microsoft partners in the world in our competencies. And we've also earned Microsoft Partner of the Year and Reseller of the Year multiple times. One thing about eBECS, we invest in our people. That is our strength, that is our business, is our people. We are highly trained, Microsoft certified professionals, and we also heavily invest in training the next generation with our graduate program, where we take fresh college graduates from some of the best schools in the world and train them in ERP, business intelligence, and CRM systems. So enough about us, though. Let's talk about our agenda today. The first thing I want to talk about is going to be the Microsoft Data Platform. It's gotten a little bit complicated in the past few years. There's a lot of options available on it. So I'm just going to sit down and explain the different options and show you exactly what that data platform looks like. Then we'll talk about Power BI. We'll demystify what Power BI is, what it's used for, and what it does, and kind of show you some of the strengths and weaknesses around Power BI. Now after that, we'll dive into traditional business intelligence, and I'm going to use Microsoft Dynamics AX, the BI stack that comes with AX. I'm going to use that as an example and kind of show you what the components of a traditional BI stack are, what their strengths and weaknesses are as well, and how they should be used. And then we're going to compare and contrast the two. Find out what you should use when and where, what the strengths and weaknesses are of the both, and kind of find you a best-of-breed path down the middle. And that's where we come up with our recommended architecture. And this specifically really hits in on Dynamics AX users. If you're not on Dynamics AX, don't fret though. The architecture is readily adaptable to other ERP systems or other line of business systems as well. And then I'll talk a little bit about how to get started within your own organization. We've got the plan, we've got the architecture. Now how do I get started? How do I move forward with this? And, that's what we'll finally discuss before closing today. So the Microsoft Data Platform, there is a lot going on here, but we'll start at the bottom. These are your source systems, and these days data can come from anywhere. It used to be your data came from your organization, and that would be your relational database within your organization, whether it be your ERP system or your accounting system. Those were your traditional data sources. These days we also have non-relational databases such as Hadoop file systems if you need log files from your websites or anything else you're trying to study analytics on. Also additional analytics data, file data, internal and external cloud-based data. Basically any data source you have, we're going to be able to use that and start performing advanced analytics on those data sources. The next layer up, and this is really where Microsoft products come in, is the EIM layer, the Enterprise Information Management layer. And it starts off with SQL Server Integration Services. And all the tools in red will be traditional tools. All the tools in green there are going to be Power BI tools, just to get that clear. So Integration Services comes with Microsoft SQL Server. It is a tool to go grab data from somewhere. It's called an ETL tool, extract, transform, and load. So you use it to grab your data, transform it, cleanse the data, and load the data into a data warehouse or into an analysis cube somewhere. Additionally, Microsoft has also added Master Data Services. This is a tool that allows you to manage your reference data within your organization, whether it be your customer list or your product list. It allows you to create a master list of that data and also gives points within that process to where a user, a data steward, can go in and edit and modify that data to keep it clean, conformed, and keep it as a concise list. And also, out of the box with SQL Server, you also get Data Quality Services, which is a world-class data cleansing software system. It allows you to perform lookups, fuzzy matching, anything else you think of when you think of data quality. It also allows you to, once again, assign your data stewards to go in and manually clean up things you just can't come up with a rule for. All these together create a world-class ETL, Enterprise Information Management platform. That is your traditional system. These days with Power BI, though, you now have Power Query, which does pretty much the same thing as Integration Services does. I would say it's not as robust as Integration Services, but they've been working on Integration Services for 10 years now. So Power Query is catching up rapidly, but is not quite there as far as advanced capabilities go. The next layer is your data model. And we'll start with the multidimensional analysis services. These are the cubes that come in AX. These are the cubes you've always heard about, slicing and dicing, creating your pivot tables in Excel. You're going to use these cubes for. A couple of years back, Microsoft introduced the Power Pivot model, which later became the Analysis Services Tabular model, and that's what's over here on the right. And this is your Power BI model. It's a new high-speed in-memory analytics storage engine. And I won't say either one's more capable than the other, but Microsoft is fully invested in the Power Pivot tabular model as a future, so it really is the future roadmap for Microsoft as far as an analytics engine goes. And finally, visualization layer. This is where the end users actually get to use and interact with all the work you've done underneath to get the data where they need it. Traditionally, you would use SQL Server Reporting Services, SQL Server Reporting Services Power View and SharePoint. And with Power BI, we brought in pivot tables, pivot charts, Power Views, and Power Map reports. These are new, high-speed, advanced reporting systems that are very friendly to the end user. They no longer require a developer to create visualizations. And for your collaboration layer, you traditionally had SharePoint. Think of your role centers in Microsoft Dynamics AX. That is nothing more than a SharePoint page with SSRS reports on it and Power View reports on it. Well, now Microsoft additionally has the Power BI portal, and this is your online cloud-based collaboration tool. It does the same thing your SharePoint pages used to do, except now it's online and you can distribute it even wider than you were able to in the past. So that's the data platform. A lot of pieces, a lot of moving parts there, and a lot of decisions to make as far as where your organization needs to go and which tools are right for your organization. So start out, let's dig in a little bit deeper. What is Power BI? We'll start on this side rather than traditional BI and just talk a little bit about Power BI. The first thing you need to know is it's not actually one tool, it's a suite of tools. And in the past 2 years, that suite of tools has been changing and evolving. Initially, Power BI was part of Office 365, so you had Excel as one of the tools with add-ins of Power Query, Power Pivot, and Power View. Well, nowadays, they've narrowed it down to just 3 tools. You have the Power BI web portal, the Power BI Designer, which now replaces everything you used to do in Excel, whether it be Power Query, Power Pivot, or Power View. It's now all in one easy-to-use tool. You no longer need Excel. You no longer need to know those add-ins or where to find them in Excel. It's all there and much more intuitive in Power BI Designer. And for larger data sets, there is a 10 gigabyte limit in Power BI. And as you know, most enterprise users know that that's not going to be enough data to actually use at an enterprise level. So Microsoft has also provided the Power BI Analysis Services connector. And what this does, it allows you to connect your Power BI reports to your own premise or Azure tabular analysis services data models that you store in your own locations. And just point out, this was a great move by Microsoft. The new version of Power BI is no longer tied to Office 365 or Excel. You don't need those tools. You don't need those subscriptions. You just need the $10 a month Power BI portal, and you're good to go. So speaking of the portal, when you first log in, this is what you're going to look at. It will probably be a different dashboard. You set what your dashboard is going to be, what you want to see when you log in. This is a social analytics dashboard, so it's monitoring tweets out there and performing analytics on it. But as far as navigation goes, over here on the left side, you see Get Data. That's to go out and get new data from somewhere. You see Dashboards. These are going to be your dashboards, reports, and even further down, you'll have a section that says Data Models, and that's where your data models are stored, and you can start building new reports based on those. This portal looks the same for everybody. Really intuitive, easy to use, point-and-click interface. Really a huge leaps and bounds forward from having a user to have to go in and design a SharePoint page or modify a SharePoint page. So it's a very nice portal. As I mentioned earlier, we have Power BI Designer now. It integrates Power Query, Power Pivot, and Power View. And this was a huge step forward because all three of these tools were add-ins for Excel. And sometimes Excel came with it, sometimes you would have to go download it and add it, and sometimes you would have to enable the COM add-in in Excel through some configuration screens. It was really a tedious chore and sometimes technical, and sometimes they would disappear, sometimes they wouldn't. So while the tools were great, the interfacing and interoperability with Excel was a bit tedious at times. So now everything's integrated into Power BI Designer. You don't have to hunt and peck or go look for which tool is going to do this. You get data, you data model, and then you build your reports. It's all in one simple tool. You download this from powerbi.com, and you're ready to start building your first data models and reports in no time. So what does Power BI bring you? Secure data discovery. It allows end users even to go out and discover data, really start digging into data quickly, analyzing data quickly, much faster than they've been able to do in the past. Combining data from multiple sources, size, types, locations, into simple, easy to use, intuitive data models. This is what the data modeling looks like within Power Pivot, and it's really just point and click. You're dragging objects on the page, dragging relationships around. As the models get more complicated, sometimes you might want to bring a DBA in to help ensure you get the right relationships down, but it really doesn't require a full development team to put these together these days. And that's a huge improvement over past building a data warehouse and building analytics cubes, which were very technical topics. As far as data discovery goes, you can get data from almost anywhere. The nice thing about Power BI is it's on a monthly release schedule. So every month new features come out. They have a blog on the powerbi.com website, so if you follow the blog, you'll know the features each month as they come out. Since I put this slide together, they've also added connectors for QuickBooks and SurveyMonkey, so you can use those as new data sources for charts and graphs and reports in Power BI. And as you can see, you can get data from almost anywhere. You have Hadoop file systems, you have Facebook or Google Analytics or SAP, Excel, SQL Server database. You're really able to go out and pretty much use almost any data source you can think of. And if it's not there now, I always say wait a month or two. It's bound to come up with the next release. So the wow part, though, of Power BI is the visualization capabilities of Power BI, whether it be laying my data out on a map, analyzing forecasting data, or even advanced Q&A of my data. I can just ask regular, questions of my data, and based on what Power BI knows of the data utilizing the Bing search engine, it's going to go parse your data, pull the data it thinks you need onto, whether it be a map or chart based on your question, and put that together for you. So there really are some advanced visualization capabilities that are end user friendly. So the users are able to really start visualizing things like they never could in the past and dig in deeper than they ever could. I know we've all been there, and traditionally in the past, if you needed a new report, you had to go design the specs, send that to IT. Months later, it comes back, and you have the report, and you're hoping it was right because it's going to be another 2-month cycle if you have to get a revision done to it. And that's really not an effective way. With these new end user tools, we're able to rapidly visualize data, rapidly gain my insight, and I can even throw it away at the end of the day. I just wanted to see what I needed to see. I didn't even need to save it. It's a much more efficient, much faster way of conducting business in today's modern world. As far as the collaboration capabilities of Power BI goes, you're able to make fast decisions. You're able to get that data. You're able to share that data with others. And by sharing these workbooks and sharing these charts with other people in your organization, you can come up with a consensus, a team-wide consensus immediately, because everybody's got the data they need. Everybody can see what you see. It's really a true democratization of your data. Additionally, mobile access. You know, it used to be that was a big feature we would tout. Yes, we have mobile access to our reports. Well, these days it's become a necessity. There's no way you can have a product without mobile access. And the nice thing is Power BI, the portal and everything there is written in HTML5. So if you have any device that has a browser, you can go and log into Power BI and start browsing your reports and getting your reports every day, no matter where you are in the world. I know I travel a lot, so it's nice to be able to just log in on my phone or log in on my tablet and see it. Additionally, Microsoft has created apps for the iPhone and iPads. They also have apps for a Windows phone and a Windows tablet as well. So there's definitely the mobile option, and it's there and works very nicely. So anytime I'm evaluating a product, I like to lay out a list of strengths and weaknesses of the product. What this allows me to do, it allows me to tell my customers, here's how this product will benefit you, and as far as weaknesses go, here's the pitfalls you might reach, and here it allows me to formulate some ways around those pitfalls and reference architectures to better avoid the pitfalls as well. So what I've done, I've laid out just a bullet point list of the strengths and weaknesses for you. Power BI strengths, rapid, intuitive visualization. Once again, you put that in the hands of the end user with easy-to-use data models, and they're able to gain insights they were never, ever able to gain before. And that's what's brought to you by that self-service model. An easy-to-use data model, being able to put that together and being able to mine that for insights is just a great strength that Power BI brings to the table. And as I touched on earlier, the release cycle of Power BI, that rapid monthly release cycle, features are added continuously. That to me is a huge strength. You know, the product's going to stay working the same, but I get new features every month. So I may be lacking in a feature, but once again, wait a month or two, it's probably going to be there. There's also a request link on the Power BI website to where you can send your own requests for features. They're really trying to crowdsource those features and find what the users, exactly what the users need that way. Many data sources supported. This goes without saying. When you see that page of data sources they support, you can pull data from literally almost anywhere, and they're adding more and more every month. So this is definitely a strength of Power BI. And the biggest strength right there is it doesn't require a developer. I put a little star there because, as I mentioned earlier, as data models evolve, as you come up with multiple sources of data and try to tie them together accurately, sometimes you'll want to bring in a developer or a DBA to be able to build that data model for you. But once the data model's there, being able to mine that model, building your charts and graphs and your analytics on top of it is definitely an end user function. And as I said before, this isn't an option anymore. It has to support a web and mobile interface, and it absolutely does. So weaknesses. You know, everything has weaknesses. No matter how strong it is, there's got to be some problems with it. The first one I come up with is that 10 gigabyte data limit that you can store within Power BI. That's a big limitation. That's great if you're exporting some spreadsheets from AX and importing them into Power BI and doing some work on that. But when you want to get that enterprise view of your AX system and your sales pipeline from CRM and conform those together at the enterprise level, well, you've blown out that 10 gigabyte data limit way, way in the past. So that's a limitation. There are ways around it that we'll touch on here in a moment. Cloud only. I'm not sure if this is a strength or weakness, but I put it in the weakness category because some users are still a little, they don't trust the cloud. But let's face it, Microsoft has invested billions of dollars in security, billions of dollars in infrastructure. Their cloud is probably safer than most organizations' own personal infrastructure. So these days, everybody's warmed up to the cloud. We all have CRM Online or Office 365. So eventually this won't be a weakness, but it's definitely something the user needs to know about, the organization needs to know and plan for accordingly. Power BI lacks planning and predictive analytics. They had it for a little while, a very basic implementation of predictive analytics, and they took it out recently. I guess it was not ready for prime time yet, so it's coming, but it's definitely listed as a weakness because it's not there. There is one third-party product out there that does a very nice job of planning and predictive analytics in Power BI or Power Planner, so if anyone's interested in that, please get with me after this and I can point them in the right direction of who that company is. Skips proper data cleansing and conforming. Now, I probably should have put an asterisk here because it doesn't, but the data modeling is so easy to use, it gets in the hands of users who might not know what proper data cleansing and conforming is, so you will end up with data errors. That's back with that asterisk of don't need a developer. Well, sometimes you do need that DBA or developer. Sometimes you have complex data models you need to put together that absolutely you're going to need a developer to not only get that model put together accurately, but to be able to test it accurately as well. So it gives you too many tools sometimes, and you go forward too fast, and you may end up with inaccurate data is the point I'm trying to point out here. Now the big one for our AX users out there is Power BI lacks an AX connector and application intelligence. So let me explain what exactly that means. AX sits on top of SQL Server, so obviously you can connect to SQL Server from Power BI. Unfortunately, there's about 8,000 tables and views in AX. So short of being an AX developer or an AX business intelligence expert, that's just too complex for an end user to go in and connect and look at all of that. On top of that, Power BI doesn't connect to the AOT, where your AX relationships and enums are stored. So you don't know which tables are related to what and how that model works. So in this point, I say there's a huge weakness in Power BI because, well, it just lacks that application intelligence and connector to the AOT and to AX in general. So it's definitely a big one, but we'll touch on a little bit later in the presentation on how to overcome that weakness. It does not work with the multidimensional analytics cubes. And where this is important is those are the default cubes that come with AX, those 20 cubes or so that come with it these days. You're not going to be able to query those cubes using the Power BI Analysis Services connector. That only works with the new tabular model or the Power Pivot model cubes. Once again, we'll talk about how to overcome this weakness as well a little later in the presentation. So, let's talk about traditional business intelligence. And I'm going to frame this using Dynamics AX 2012 as my reference here, simply because most of our customers are on AX, or AX 2012 specifically, so this really applies to you. And additionally, I think that the BI stack, the BI implementation within AX, is a good example of fully utilizing Microsoft's traditional business intelligence stack. So even if you're not on AX, this is a great example of what that traditional BI stack is. So what does it look like traditionally? Well, from the bottom, once again, we have our source systems. In the middle, we have our Microsoft SQL Server applications, whether it be the SQL Server database to build a data warehouse, integration services we talked about earlier for ETL, master data services, reporting services, and analysis services for building those multidimensional cubes. And then as far as collaboration and visualization go, you have your SharePoint dashboards and scorecards, think your role centers, SharePoint collaboration, Excel workbooks, Power Pivot applications. So this is the traditional stack. No Power BI to be found anywhere in there. And this is what a traditional BI dashboard would look like. It's if you've used AX, you might recognize this. This is a Chief Financial Officer Role Center. And on this Role Center, you have Microsoft Performance Point, Key Performance Indicators, not Performance Point, yes, Key Performance Indicators with scorecards built around those, a couple of those, as well as Power View SSRS reports here. So you have your map and you have your different charts and graphs. And this is all built on nothing more than a SharePoint page. These are easy to modify for developers. I would not have an end user modifying my SharePoint pages. It's just not a good idea, especially ones that are shared among users. But as far as modifications go, it's not too terribly difficult for a SharePoint developer to come in here and make modifications, add new reports, remove charts, remove KPIs from your scorecard. Whatever you need to change, it's easily modifiable. And within AX, you get about 44 of these role centers, plus some templates as well. So depending on your role in the organization, you're going to have a custom dashboard right there for you. It's a really robust system and actually very nice. And those dashboards are fed off of 20 predefined analysis services cube that come out of the box. And once again, this is just a great implementation of Microsoft's Business Intelligence Stack. The only problem is, as far as Power BI goes, it doesn't know these cubes exist, won't talk to them, doesn't play nice with them. So this is an artifact you've got here that you can't use within Power BI. So that's kind of a big liability there. Your traditional BI SQL Server Reporting Services report. You build these SSRS reports and use them whether you're attaching to the cube or a database. The thing to point out here is you build these reports in a product called Microsoft Visual Studio. This is definitely not an end user tool. It is not drag and drop. You are writing code in here. There are some visual design elements, but you definitely have to be a developer to start writing these reports. It is not an end user tool. So that's going to bring us into our strengths and weaknesses. Traditional BI strengths, the Microsoft Stack. It's a full-featured end-to-end solution. It really is a powerful and robust solution. Powerful integration, data management, and cleansing capabilities, world-class as far as using SSIS, DQS, and master data services. I mean, you don't get much better than that stack right there. Unlimited source and size. I put an asterisk there because it's limited by the size of the servers you put it on, basically. There are petabyte data warehouses, and that's just a lot of data that perform perfectly well out there running SQL Server. It's proven technology and techniques. I've been working with this stuff for like 8 years now, and it's been around. They keep improving on it. It's gotten world-class, world scalable. Back in the days, Oracle was better at a lot of things, but these days Microsoft SQL Server is right there, if not surpassed it in a lot of these areas. It's a performant design for large historical data sets. I go back to that petabyte data warehouse that you can build in SQL Server. It works. It works for huge installations as well. Source agnostic, I put an asterisk there. If it doesn't have a source connector in SSIS for you to go grab something, you can usually find a third-party vendor who will sell you one for a reasonable price, or if you have .NET developers on staff, you can pretty much source data from anywhere that they want to code it for. The security models are very robust within the traditional BI stack. It allows you to do custom code, custom security models, and has a lot of built-in out-of-the-box security as well. I double-clicked there. It also has a mature planning and predictive analytics capabilities. Yes, there are some custom code and development to implement these, but the tool sets are there with the multidimensional analysis services model with its write-back capabilities. You can do what-if scenarios and forecasting, and it's actually implemented in Microsoft Dynamics AX 2012 R3. You actually have some of that forecasting built into the system that uses these BI tools. So as great as it is, let's talk about some weaknesses of it. And the first one, it can be expensive. You know, on delivery, we have ways to mitigate this with rapid delivery cycles, agile project methodologies, but, you know, to go in and deliver the whole thing, it can definitely get expensive. It's limited to structured data, and I put an asterisk there because while it stores the data in a structured method, you can sometimes pull data from unstructured sources such as Hadoop, but you'll be structuring it in that ETL process. So it still has some limitations around that. Slow to change and modify. Complex solutions requires a lot of analysis up front when you start doing changes and modifications, requires coding to do changes and modifications, so there's always extensive test cycles around that as well. So it definitely takes more time to change and modify that. You know, our experience bears that out. You know, when I gave the example earlier of writing a report and it comes back, you know, 2 months later, it just takes time. Slow to implement as well, same thing. And it is a complex solution, which, it's a very robust solution, very customizable, but with those capabilities, the robust capability and customization capability, it adds complexity. It's just the nature of the beast. And finally, requires specialized skills to implement and support. And that really leads back to you have to have developers working in these tools, or DBAs, developers. You have to have professionals who do this for a living. The cost goes up so much if you do it without people who have experience doing it right. So doing it wrong is definitely more expensive than doing it right there. So that's traditional BI. And they each have their place, Power BI, traditional BI. So now let's talk about Power BI within my MS Dynamics AX environment. I mean, Microsoft has been touting this. If any of you guys went to Convergence, you know Power BI was the hottest topic out there. It's great. It does everything, except talk to Microsoft Dynamics AX. I like to say there's a little black box out there called the missing link that magically is supposed to work, but there's really nothing there. And it's been up to us partners to sit back and listen to the customer say, I want Power BI. Every customer said that. And we're sitting back saying, well, you can't. It doesn't quite work that way. Yes, we can get you a few views here or there, but the development effort to get there is definitely going to add to that $10 a month cost. Why is that? Like I said earlier, the data model has around 8,000 tables and views. It's very complex. An end user can't navigate that, can't understand that. It's just so complicated to get through that data model. Additionally, there's no access to the AOT, so you can't get to your relationships, you can't get to your enums. There are ways you can decode and get to the enums, but the relationships, you're just going to have to start building them yourself, and it's a lot of work to just go in and get that done. So we've been staring at this missing link for a while, so we at eBECS, we decided to do something about it. It got to the point where I want my customers to use Power BI. It's a great tool, so now how can we get them there? So we took it upon ourselves to develop the eBECS Rapid Return Data Modeler, and this is a tool that's going to build that interface. It's going to build those views and put those tables together into an easy-to-use virtual data model that can then feed your tabular data model, whether it be an on-premise tabular data model or whether it be Power BI. It's a great tool that saves just hours and hours and hours of development time. So just one slide about the eBECS Rapid Return Data Modeler. It's a cloud-based subscription tool. It's being released this month. It reads your AX AOT information, creates virtual denormalized data models to be used by Power BI or any other ETL tool. So I don't care if you're building a data warehouse or building your Power BI tabular model out of AX, the eBECS Rapid Return Data Modeler will definitely speed things up. It bridges the gap between AX and the tabular analysis services model, and it's the only product that bridges that gap. It's the only one that's out there actively enabling users to use Power BI on their AX data. And it does it through an easy-to-use drag-and-drop user interface. So what does a reference architecture look like? If you're a Dynamics AX shop that wants to use Power BI, well, you'd start with your source systems, CRM, custom systems, Dynamics AX. Utilizing your eBECS Rapid Return Data Modeler as well as SSIS, you would then go over to your OLAP systems. So you have an enterprise data warehouse, that's optional depending on the size of your data and your organization, and you have your tabular data model. So your tabular data model would feed off of either straight from the eBECS Rapid Return Data Modeler, or for a larger installation, it's going to feed off of the enterprise data warehouse and use that as a source. In the end, the main thing is to create this tabular model. You may have more than one tabular model within your organization. And then you would use your Power BI Analysis Services connector to query and build reports, graphs, and dashboards based off of your tabular model. And that's been the missing link is, A, how do I get data out of Dynamics AX? B, how do I get around the 10 gigabyte limitation in Power BI? And that's where our Rapid Return Data Modeler, as well as your on-premise or in Microsoft Azure server, tabular data model comes into play. So once you have that, once you start querying your data and building your dashboards, you can also start utilizing Power Query to go searching for external data, whether it be Hadoop or whether it be the Internet of Things or some internet data feed from somewhere. It could be a machine on a factory floor if you wanted to start blending that with your accounting data to determine how profitable that machine is day to day based on its utilization rate. All can be done very rapidly, very easily by the end user in Power BI. You simply have to get the data there for them to start being able to mine the data and really starting to release the insights within it. So this is what I call my recommended reference architecture to utilize Power BI for Dynamics AX customers. What does the Rapid Return Data Modeler get you here? It saves you hundreds of hours of developer time building views, denormalizing that AX data model. It's going to save you all that time and really allow you to do it in a rapid manner. So with that said, I just wanted to show you, here's a dashboard that I built using a data model I built. So I built a quick data model in a couple of hours within the Rapid Return Data Modeler. And then I just started building dashboards based on this. This is our CEO dashboard, and I built this dashboard in probably 20 minutes, just putting together different charts and graphs off of a nice denormalized star schema that I was able to build within my tabular model. Very easy to navigate data model, very easy to start putting these reports together. The end user now has the ability to see and read that. So what are some of the benefits of this reference architecture? You end up, once again, with a full-featured end-to-end solution. It really is from soup to nuts, you get the whole package there. You get a consistent enterprise-wide view of the data. You conform and consolidate all of your data sources into either just a tabular model or an enterprise data warehouse that then feeds a tabular model. Unlimited sources and size. Once again, we now have a Power BI model that gets over that 10 gigabyte limitation, gets over that single system limitation, and really gives you unlimited sources and size for your data sets. And it also utilizes the best of breed products. No one out there is really going to tell you that SSRS, SQL Server Reporting Services, is better than Power BI for an end user to build a report. So I like to call this the best of breed model. I have my data warehouse option, but I absolutely want an end user reporting tool as well. So I like to say this utilizes the best of breed products going straight down the Microsoft roadmap. It definitely scales based on organizational needs, and I have a slide here in 1 second to kind of help you gauge where you are on that organizational need scale. It's source agnostic. It doesn't care where the data is coming from. Once you get it into that tabular data model, it's there. That's the source to the user. They don't care if that data came from CRM, if it came from AX, or if it came from some old accounting system somewhere. So the user doesn't have to worry about that anymore. The data is just there when they need it, where they need it. And there's a clear roadmap. And the way I put this is the Microsoft Tabular Analysis Services model is the future. We don't know when the multidimensional model, like is used in Dynamics to build the cubes, is going away, but it's definitely been whispered for the past 3 or 4 years that it's going away eventually. So I like to give my end users a clear roadmap using the tools that have the longest lifespan. So I like to think that this is the reference architecture to give them that. So now, what's the right tool for me? How do I decide what I need as an organization? So I kind of like to split it up by the client type. This is just my recommendation of products by the client type for your implementation. So if you're a small to medium enterprise, a low analytics requirement, go with your eBECS Rapid Return Data Modeler. Possibly consume that straight into Power BI. If you can get it under 10 gigs, no need for an on-site tabular model, no need for a data warehouse, and definitely utilize, don't throw away your AX default cubes and role centers. You paid for them as an AX user, definitely utilize them. There's some good value to be had there. If you're a small to medium enterprise with a high analytic requirement, maybe some historical data sources, and maybe even a small IT team as well, go with your data modeler. Go with Power BI, but you're going to have more than the 10 gigabytes of data, so go with a tabular data model on-premise, and optionally, depending on the size of your data and the number of sources you have, optionally even go with an enterprise data warehouse to feed that tabular model. And if you're an enterprise with large-scale Dynamics implementation, internal IT team, historical data sources, many operational source systems, go with your data modeler for your AX data. Go with Power BI. Go with an on-premise tabular model with multiple models within it. And definitely go with an enterprise data warehouse. It's not an option at that point. You definitely need something like that to conform that data. Those are my recommendations. So now let's talk about next steps. How do you get to where you want to achieve? Well, to get Power BI, you can go to powerbi.com and sign up. It's free right now for the evaluation period to sign up for Power BI. Start playing with it, grab some data in Excel and throw it into Power BI and just start playing with it and see what you can do with that. eBECS offers free half-day discovery workshops. We have a couple listed on the website, but we will definitely custom tailor something for any user who wants to start planning a business intelligence program. The two we have offered are Unlock Your Investment in Microsoft Business Intelligence, and we also offer an eBECS Power BI workshop. Like I said, we will definitely custom tailor experiences for the user. So with that said, I'll open the floor to questions, but right before any questions come in, I just want to say if you have any offline questions, if you have any interest in the products or pricing, or just want to know how to get started, feel free to email me any questions you have. My email's on the screen, so I'm going to open the floor to questions now that you guys can type in. So Charlotte.
Yep, I think I will actually probably unmute everybody. This might be dangerous, so bear with me. But if you guys have questions and wanna or comments, I'll just go ahead and unmute everyone, and we can ask those to Jeremy. There we go. So everyone should be unmuted if anybody'd like to ask questions or provide comments.
Hi, good morning. My name is and I have one question for you. I was asking Power BI model. How do you apply security? So if you have a particular dashboard, maybe a sales-related dashboard, and then you want one salesperson to see their figures while another salesperson to see their figures, does Power BI support that?
Jeremy, were you able to hear that question around security? I might have muted Jeremy. I'm sorry. There you go. Go ahead, Jeremy.
I've been screaming as loud as I can. So when you build your tabular model, you can build what's called dimension of security on top of that. So what that is, you assign different users different security roles, and they can view data based on their security roles. So while you may not be securing the dashboard, you're definitely securing the dimensional model underneath the dashboard, and hence what the user sees in that dashboard.
Okay, and to clarify then, that is when you're using SSAS in a tabular model, so then it requires that in order to apply the security, is that correct?
Yeah, you absolutely would have to use the tabular model in that case. Sorry,
okay.
I didn't. Any other questions?
I'll ask one more if I'm permitted to have two. All right, my next question is with the Power BI. Is there a way without the tabular model in place with analysis services, can you automate the loading of data from the disparate data sources that you referenced?
Yes, there is a way to schedule automated loads. I will have to, there was a recent release, and I'll have to dig it up for you. But there's a recent release on scheduling that I believe you can schedule it every 24 hours to automatically load those data sources. And there's also a third-party vendor out there who has a scheduling tool that will actually do it more often than that. So if you want, just give me your name and I will reach back out to you and show you the blog article on scheduling that.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Any others? And yeah, you can have a third if you want, really.
All right, great. Well, I'll go ahead and say thank you, Jeremy, so much for the great session. If you have questions, Jeremy's email address is on the webinar right here, so go ahead, feel free to email him at any time. And at this point, I'll go ahead and close out the webinar. Thanks, Jeremy.
All right, thanks. Bye.